Everyone likes a nice set of heavies, so in this video I'll be ranking the best heavy armors in Baldur's Gate 3 on a tier list. Now, I'll be talking about all of the abilities that these grant your player, as well as how well these armors look, because style points do matter. So, the first one that we're starting with is just the regular old ring mail armor, which only gives you 14 armor for being a heavy armor. That's not that good, because it also applies a disadvantage on stealth. So this one's obviously a D tier choice. It's just not good. 14 armor class for heavy armor is kind of garbage. But we also have the splint armor next. This one has 17 armor class, so this is a little bit better. Doesn't provide any benefit, but 17 armor class is a lot nicer than 14. I would say this is probably a C tier to high D tier. I will maybe rearrange this later on, but no extra benefits. It does look a bit better. Like the ring mail armor here is probably one of the ugliest in the entire game. This armor looks like heavy armor, so it passes the test. It looks decent, but yeah, it's still C tier option. But we got next the chainmail +1. So this has 17 armor class, which is pretty good, but it also gives you one less slashing damage, which is a very common damage type because most swords are going to be dealing that damage. So it's a bit higher on the C tier. 17 armor class is quite nice. It also looks nice, has a bit of fabric on it, and it pairs well with a lot of dyes. So it's not a bad armor overall, but there is a lot better in this game. So yeah, I would say C tier. Next, we got ourselves the plate armor. This is a little bit better. It has 18 armor class, so it's probably, yeah, I'd probably go somewhere around there. Maybe we'll move that one down. 19 armor class is a little bit better, or 18 armor class is a little bit better than the 17 armor class that the plate mail has, so, or splint mail has, so, yeah, just not good. It does look like armor, so a couple points there for that, but next we get into the plate armor +1. So this is a little bit better because it looks like this armor, but it has nicer shoulder pads, and it gives you -1 to slashing or piercing damage. So 19 armor class with a -1, that's pretty good. I would say it's probably it's higher armor class than that one, so maybe B tier, maybe C tier. It's just not that great. We have so many better armor options here. So next we're getting into something a little bit better with the armor of devotion. So this is an interesting one. It has an 18 armor class. It still gives you disadvantage on stealth, which is typical for most of these, but some don't. This also gives you the eternal devotion. So recite your oath to regain 1 paladin channel oath charge per long rest. So that can be really good. If you're a vengeance paladin, that just means more overall damage. Armor devotion is not bad. It also looks pretty nice. Like some of these armors have similar appearances to them. I think this is the best looking armor that we've covered so far. Kind of looks like the Helldusk armor a little bit, but yeah, this stuff's pretty decent if you're a paladin. If you're not a paladin, it's not amazing. Probably C to D tier, but yeah, it has 18 armor class, so that's at least something decent to run around with. But mostly for paladins. But next we got ourselves the flawed Helldusk armor. This is a pretty popular one for good reason, because you can actually use this the entire game, because what it does is when you're hit by a foe within 2 meters, it might take 1d4 of fire damage. So lesser infernal retribution, it's a DC 13 dexterity saving throw, so decent option, honestly. And you also take 1 less piercing damage with an armor class of 18. So the flawed Helldusk, it's not as good as the actual Helldusk, but it looks pretty nice too, so some points there for that. But the ability to leave fire damage as well it's quite nice. So yeah, I'd probably say about B tier. 18 armor class is solid. Next we got the plate armor +2. So this one actually is starting to get pretty solid. It's still only rarity, but it has that like purple exterior to it on the image, but it's just rare. Now, it has a 20 armor class, giving this the highest armor class that we've seen so far. Plate armor +2 is honestly quite decent. It also has exceptional plate, which gives you 2 less damage from slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning damage. So I would say this is A tier. Just good overall defense. Better than all the other options that we've had thus far. So it gives a nice benefit of reducing your overall damage by 2, which with arcane ward stacks can actually reduce the damage that you take quite a bit. So if you have a paladin multiclassed, it can honestly be quite solid. Or a wizard multiclass, it can be quite solid if you have the armor proficiencies. Now, we got ourselves this is an interesting one. You get this from our good friend, the Emperor, the Cerebral Citadel armor. It has an armor class of 18, and obviously the disadvantage on stealth checks, but it gives you the ability to resist being frightened. So if you have this armor on, you can't be frightened. That's kind of nice, but you typically don't end up being frightened. Like in a run through the Baldur's Gate 3 game, you're probably only going to get frightened a couple times, so that's not a huge benefit, to be honest. But it also has the illithid protection. So if the wearer is infected with a Mind Flayer parasite, they gain +1 to intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. So that will help out a little bit, but I just don't think it's enough. I also kind of think this armor is ugly. I'll be just fully honest with you guys. It has this weird illithid look to it, which, I mean, if you're into that, fine, but I just think it's not the best armor. 18 armor class with benefits that aren't very high. I would say it's around the B tier. But next, we got ourselves, I guess, going lower into the rarities again. We got another ringed mail armor. This is the ringed mail armor +2. So this has 16 armor class. It's one of those ones that's a little bit lighter in its armor class. Even though it's a rare +2 armor, it's just not amazing. It gives you the superior material, so you take 1 less slashing damage, which is nice. And it gives you a +1 to strength saving throws and ability checks. For being a rare armor, only 16 armor class, this is not that great. It's probably like the lower in the C tier. There's actually some base armors that are better. Like 18 armor class is better than 16. -1 slashing is okay, but it's not enough to really boost it up. It's probably a D tier, and it's also quite ugly. So yeah, we're gonna throw her down the D tier. Just not that great in comparison. But next we got ourselves a bit of an interesting one. This is the ringmail +1. So same deal. It's just ugly, straight up ugly, D tier. Interesting in the fact that it looks a little bit better than it is, but it'll probably, obviously it's better than the worst version of it, but just not that good. But we got something really fun next with the adamantine armor, which is a very rare item. Now you get to choose from just 2 adamantine items in the game, so there's swords, there's armor, there's a shield. My personal favorite is the armor and the shield, and I'll tell you why. So with this, it has an armor class of 18, so that is quite solid. It's the second highest that we've seen so far on this list. It gives you all incoming damage -2, so better than just the slashing and piercing damage. This is all damage -2. But the biggest benefit, in my opinion, is the intense adamantine backlash. So with this, whenever you're attacked by a melee attack, you send the target reeling for 3 turns. And reeling just gives a -1 penalty to attack rolls, so if you get hit while wearing this, the target has -3 to their attack rolls. Now, there's actually a lot of benefit to having this because you can get the Boots of Stormy Clamor, which will add 2 stacks of reverberation for every condition you apply on the target. Reeling is counted as a condition. So with this, you will apply a couple stacks of reverberation. You can also stack radiating orbs with this. So this goes really well on a number of builds. And also, in addition, you can't be critical hit. So this armor, it's available in Act 1. It's easily S tier. Now, it isn't the highest damage that we've seen yet, or the highest damage armor class that we've seen. It has 18. That's still really good, though, because it'll reduce all incoming damage by 2. In addition, can't be critical hit, and you send the target reeling. So -3 to attack rolls when they hit you is nice, but it can also stack with a variety of different items. So I would have to say that this is definitely an S tier item. Adamantine armor is solid. It also looks cool, so style points. But it's S tier even without all that. Next is my favorite armor in the game, I would say, the armor persistence. So this has a lot of benefits as well. This is hard. You have to be a good character to get the armor persistence, but it's worth being good because this has some of the best benefits in the game. So it gives you 20 armor class, so it's higher than adamantine armor. It also has a magical plate, so it has that same -2 to all damage sources that the adamantine has, so that's nice. Overall reduction to damage is always warranted, but it has legendary persistence, so this applies both resistance and blade ward. So with resistance, you get a +1 d4 to your saving throws, making you more likely to survive spells. You also get blade ward, which will half physical damage, so bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing do half the amount of damage. So yes, you reduce all damage types by 2, but you also half physical damages, and this is incredible. So I have to say it's in the top of the S tier. This is also, I think, the best looking armor in the game. I'm just my own personal thoughts. I like the way that the armor appears. Lots of dyes work really well in this too. Like there's try out a bunch of different dyes. A little pro tip: save a game, try out a bunch of dyes, pick the one you want, reload your old save, and just use that one. This looks great with a very large number of dies, but it also just looks good on its own. And all the benefits, you can't complain about having Blade Ward and Resistance in it, and -2 to all damage types with 20 armor class. This is really good. Best armor in the game, I would say. My own personal thoughts, I think it's the best. So yeah, top of the S tier. Next, we got another really solid one. This is the Splint Armor +2. So this gives us 19 armor class, and it gives us the 1 less piercing damage, and a +1 to strength saving throws and ability checks. So pretty solid. 19 armor class. It's better than the other ones that gave that nice bonus to strength saving throws. I would say, however, it's probably like it's a +2 armor, but I wouldn't say it's A tier, probably top of the B tier. Just not as good as some of these other armor selections that we got, so I can't put it too high because it just doesn't bring the same benefits that some others bring. However, the Dwarven Splint Mail here, this is a really solid one. It also has 19 armor class, and the -1 to piercing damage, and the +1 to strength saving throws and ability checks. However, there's one huge difference here that makes it so much better. So with the Dwarven Splint Mail, it gives you +2 Constitution. So that's just going to flat out increase your overall health. That is amazing. I would say that the Dwarven Splint Mail is also an S tier option. Despite being just a rare armor, it is really, really good. Both of these other are very rare, and this is just rare, but getting the same benefits, 19 armor class on that, -1 piercing damage, and +1 to strength saving throws and ability checks. In addition, +2 Constitution. That's a big one for me. I'm a fan of anything that adds stats to your character because that's survivability. So on a fighter, that just means they can survive more hits. Really, on anyone, that means they survive more hits. So very solid. Every class uses Constitution. Easy S tier. I think this is a very underrated armor. I've used it a lot in my build guides in the past, and people never knew what this armor was. So I would recommend getting it. It also is not too hard to get. It's sold in Act 2 at Moonrise Towers. So yeah, highly recommend grabbing that because it's just so strong. Next, we got the Rippling Force Mail. Now, this has a very unique action to it. It has the Force Absorption. So, gain 2 turns of Force Conduit when taking slashing, piercing, or bludgeoning damage. And the Force Conduit, so what this means is whenever you take that type of damage, any physical damage, the entity, if it has 5 or more turns of it, you can deal 1d4 of force damage in a 6-meter radius. So a big nuclear attack, basically. 1d4 force damage, which is the best damage type in the game. Now, it's not much. It's just a small damage die, but it's extra damage. It can't complain about that. So you can stack up 7 turns of it. And then every single, if you get above 5 stacks, you have the ability to do that little boom, boom, boom attack. Yeah, the Rippling Force Mail is really solid. It also looks really good too. Like, this is an armor that looks pretty clean. It does only have 17 armor class, so it's a little bit lower, and it's found in Act 2. So you can get this taken from Damon. I would say this is probably another, I don't know, I feel like you could use it on a variety of builds. I might just say, however, it's a lower armor class with only 17, so for heavy armor, you obviously want it as high as you possibly can get it, because it's just going to help with survivability's sake. I would say it's probably a top of the B tier item. The Force Conduit's nice, but it requires a bit of setup, and then even still, the force damage is only 1d4, so it's nothing major. It's still good, though. Next, we got another heavier armor with the, just trying to find this correct one. The Splint Armor. We have the Splint Armor a couple times. The Dwarven Splint Mail. And, yeah, this is Splint Armor +2, I believe. I already went over one of these options. I guess this one's that one. But, yeah, with this armor, it's only a 19 armor class, -1 piercing damage. Or 18 armor class, -1 piercing damage. Probably a B tier item. Not amazing. I'll probably put it roughly around middle of the pack. 18 armor class is decent, but not as incredible as some of the other options. But now we're getting into some of the fun ones here. We got ourselves the armor of, I'm trying to find it. Chainmail +2. Right. So this is a upgraded version of this chainmail right here. So it gives you that -2 slashing damage. A little bit better. 18 armor class. You can get this fairly easily. It's when you're level 7 or above. Now, this also looks incredible. So that's what it looks like there. Really nice looking armor overall. So a little bit of style points there. But again, it's nothing super spectacular. I might put it, I mean, 18 armor class is pretty solid. -2 slashing, which is a very common damage type. I might put it A tier just because it looks so good. I have a very empty A tier. This armor is not as good as this armor in terms of overall defensive. It does have that force conduit, but I would say with the appearance of this armor, it looks nice, and it's got that -2 slashing, which is a very common damage type. Paired with 18 armor class, that's not too bad. But we're getting into the really good ones here now with the emblazoned plate mail of the Marshal. So this reduces all the incoming damage by 2 as well. This has a 19 armor class, so very solid. And you have a resistance to fire damage and a +2 to saving throws. As well, you get Fire Shield, which is cast as a level 4 spell, recharges on long rest. So this gives you resistance to fire or cold damage and retaliate against melee attackers. This is a really good armor. It's not the most stylish. It just literally looks like you're wearing, I don't know, the Fire Marshal, I guess, armor. I don't love the appearance of it, but I do know it's a good armor. You get it fairly late in Act 3, but it overall is pretty good. Resistance to fire damage is nice because we have so many people giving fire damage in this game later in the game, so it's great against House of Hope. You can loot it from Duke Older Ravenguard, so yeah, you can get that from him. It's pretty solid armor overall. I'd have to say it's S tier. Getting Fire Shield for free is really nice on a melee attacker because you can get up front and deal damage with that. So that's pretty good. That's honestly pretty good. Next, we got ourselves an armor that I pretty much see everyone play with because it's honestly quite good. It gives you 19 armor class. You get it at the very end of Act 2. It's like impossible to miss. I think that's why most people have it. And it also gives you -2 to all incoming damage. It gives you the Howl of the Dead, which is a bone-chilling howl that numbs all nearby creatures. So what this is a unique cantrip that you get. 3-meter radius as a bonus action, and it applies the numbed condition. So what numbed does is it halves movement speed and gives advantage on attack rolls against the target. So that's quite nice. You can get a free advantage for a sneak attack on your rogues. And yeah, that's pretty solid. It has a DC 14 of a wisdom saving throw, so it's honestly not a bad one. You can use it from time to time, but it also has the Reaper's Rigidity, which gives you, when activated, you can't be moved against your will by any spell or action, so Eldritch Blast not pushing you around anymore. You can't be shoved. And you also get dexterity saving throws. Your dexterity saving throws have disadvantage with the Reaper's Rigidity. So it's okay, but you're going to be hit by more fireballs than you can name. So I would have to say this is still a very good armor. -2 to all incoming damage is great, and the Howl of the Dead is really good, but I would probably say it's top of the A tier. I don't know if it's good enough to go in the S tier. It also looks weird because it's supposed to have the Nether Stone in it, but it doesn't, so it's just missing that. I think the armor's kind of ugly. I'll be honest. It looked good for the first little bit, but I still think this is not one of the best looking armors in the game. But still, nice benefits. 19 armor class, -2 to all incoming damage. You can't say it's not a good one. It's quite solid, and everyone's gonna get it. So I might leave Helldusk armor for the very end. So we got ourselves a Blackguard's plate. So this is 19 armor class. All incoming damage is reduced by 1. So that's pretty good. Not as good as that, -2 to all incoming damage, but it also gives you advantage on wisdom saving throws. Wisdom saving throws are some of the most important saving throws to make. If you're a frontliner and you find you're getting hit with Hold Person often, which is a wisdom save, this is a very solid item. The Blackguard's plate, you can get it. It also looks really nice too. This is another armor that's very, very high in the style points. And it gives it obviously disadvantage on stealth checks, but you can get it in Act 3, looted from the Undead Guardian, and the Murder Tribunal, so most people end up getting this at some point. I would have to say it's A tier, probably a little bit lower than the Reaper's Embrace there. It's not a bad armor, but it just doesn't have as many benefits as the others that are higher up on the list. So finally, we got ourselves the only legendary heavy armor in the game with the Helldusk armor. So this has one of the best abilities in the game with the Helldusk armors. You become proficient in it even if you're not. So Little Gale, his 8 strength, he can wear his armor. I actually think it's probably best on Gale if you don't multi-class him into like a Tempest Cleric to get heavy armor. You also get Infernal Retribution, so when you succeed a saving throw, the caster receives Burning for 3 turns. So what Burning does is it applies a 1d4 to fire damage per turn, which is nice, and they're also immune to it if you apply a wet. So if you got a team that's focused around Create Water and Chain Lightning, You remove burning with that. Makes sense. Obviously, if you put a fire out with water. It also gives you the prime aegis of fire, so you have resistance to fire damage, cannot be burned, and you take 3 less damage from all incoming sources. So even better than the other armors. And it also gives you the ability to fly. No complaints with this armor. This is really good armor. Now, the only downside is you get a really ugly little thing on the side. There's a little face on the corner, and it has like these horns. It looks cool at first, but with dyes, this armor is kind of not as nice as some of the other ones. A little bit ugly in my opinion, but it's still the best the best armor in the game. I'm partial. I think that the armor persistence is better because it gives you resistance and blade ward as well as the reduction by 2 of damage. This gives -3 to all sources of damage and gives you free proficiency. It's probably the absolute best, but I'm going to put it right behind the armor persistence because I've just, in my trying, I found that this one works a little bit better, but free proficiency is the best ability any armor in this game has. So yeah, this is the best heavy armors in Baldur's Gate 3 ranked on a tier list. So let me know if you think I missed something or if you have your own thoughts on which armors are best, but there it is. The best looking armor I do think is the armor persistence there. And also the Dwarven Mail Splint looks pretty good in the adamantine armor. And then the Helldusk armors also look good, the flawed ones. Chainmail armor too, that one's probably one of the best looking, easier to find armors. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know what type of Baldur's Gate 3 tier list you would like to see next. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button below if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next video.